Today's news video is kind of an older style one in that it's going to be a big one. I'm going to go over a lot of new games that are coming out right now or are available right now or almost done and out of crowdfunding. So if you are into crowdfunding board games at all, this is probably a video you're going to want to see. Now, before we dive in all that, because there's a lot to go over, I do want to give a huge shout out to Into the AM, the sponsor of today's video. You can use a discount code linked in the description below for 10% off their Black Friday sale, which is up now, up to 80% off, plus the 10% off on whatever's remaining. So it actually works in tandem with everything on the site, so you can save a lot of money. I'm wearing Into the AM right now. I do all the time. This is one of my favorite shirts of theirs and one of their new jackets. It's awesome. I love it. I think it fits great. It feels great. Keeps me warm. Super soft. Fantastic. Good build quality too. I really appreciate it. As you can see, they have a lot of new stuff and a lot of sales going on. So if we go to the new here, we can see some of the great stuff they're doing right now. This Neon Geisha tee, amazing. Their vintage tees are so comfy. They're really nice. They have some flannel stuff going on there, bomber jackets. They got a ton of stuff. So feel free to check out some of the new stuff. Their Tea Club, by the way, also still $14.95 a month. Of course, always they have a fantastic shirt this time. I'm really digging that. And then if you go to the Black Friday sale, you can see all the different sales on their packs. You can get a 3 custom pack tee branded for $46.10, and that's before the 10% off that I'll take as well with the discount code. So it's actually a really good deal for some great quality shirts. So if you're into that, or some boxers or a jacket or anything like that, feel free to check out Into the AM. Thank you, Into the AM, for sponsoring today's video. Thank you guys for supporting them and in turn helping to support this channel and remain as free from the board game industry as possible so I can give you guys my honest opinions. All right, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about Evil Dead 2, the board game deluxe edition. 41,000 raised, 608.9 backers now. This is from Linvander, which are not the most well-respected company out there. However, this is just a deluxeification of the previous one that already came out. So if you don't recall, Evil Dead 2 had some issues. However, once it was finally delivered, people tended to actually enjoy it, and they're doing even more now. So let's scroll down and see kind of what's going on here. So the deluxe edition, it's everything all in one big box. You get the red foil text in there. It comes with an expansion pack plus new solo co-op rules. In fact, they have some information here, which is great. It's just great to see them actually talk about it. Said, hey, we made this game, designed it rules wise, and people then eventually did get it and enjoyed it. So let's just go ahead and bring it back ourselves, which is kind of cool. It has 1 to 6 players, which is kind of nice. And then if you scroll down here, it shows all the gameplay, which is fun. You can turn into a dead-eyed and then attack your old friends and stuff like that, which is fun. But it says right here that it comes with the extras pack that came from the original campaign. So now that's there with it as well. The game board has a graphical update, so it looks a little bit nicer, a little bit cleaner, a little bit better to play with. It also, the miniatures now all come pre-shaded, so we have that as well. So they're the same miniatures, but now they'll have a wash on them to bring out that detail just a bit more for everybody. The solo co-op mode, that's there now. And then they also have some really fancy Evil Dead 2 dice from Dispel Dice. So, what does all that cost? Well, if you already have the original one, you can get the upgrade for 18. And that does come with these deluxe edition boss cards that are now there, sort of reference sheets, and the co-op player sheets, and the printed rulebook that's been updated. So you do get that. You don't get the new board, obviously, and the dice are extra. You get the deluxe edition, which comes with all of that. And as you can see, it comes with quite a bit. It's definitely an old school style Kickstarter offering, which I really appreciate. And those dice look very nice indeed. Love the skull there, looks great. So super cool dice. And as you can see, they're about $100. Handmade artesian dice, very fancy, very expensive. That better be real blood in there. But anyway, that's what they have offering, and they're doing pretty good. 41,000, like I said, 600 backers, and still a whole month to go. It's a long campaign. Next up, we have DestinyQuest Raiders, Rides of Terror. This is another interesting one. So this is by Michael J. Ward. He's done, now this is his 3rd campaign in the DestinyQuest thing. And it's an old school style game book, but not just one where you're just picking your navigation path through the story and then calling it good. There's a lot more to it than that. So you do pick your paths, path, so it does have that. It also has diceless combat, where you're essentially you have these different grids and you're marking them off to like fight all the way up to bosses and stuff like that. You do have level up, where you get experience points, and then you can spend those points to learn new abilities and stuff. And of course, highly replayable as well. Looks pretty cool. They've done a lot of stretch goals already, which is nice to see as well. That's obviously super cool. And as you can see, the cost of it's about 37, but most people are either going for the 25. They're like really like, this is all I get is the pack there, so you're not getting like the Tides of Terror combat pad or whatever. But really, the big one here is the Legendary Looter at 49, so it does get a little pricey. And that one you also get the Powers deck and a little bit more on top of that. So it does come with a lot of stuff there that you can see. There's kind of that combat that you're looking at there. The cards there look really fun. So there is some extra stuff. It's not just a book, obviously. But 50 bucks, it still is a little pricey. We're going to be covering Singularity here later on, and it's 50 bucks as well. And you get a kind of a full card game there. So about the same, I would say. But anyway, that's Destiny Raiders, or DestinyQuest Raiders. Next up, we have Old Moon Quarterly Magazine. This is something I personally backed, so I wanted to share it with you guys, and they could help the funding goal there. Over 100 backers, 18 days to go, 5,000 rates out of 8,000 goal. What this is, it's cheap. It's like 15 bucks, and you get really cool Souls-like stories. So like these grim, dark stories. This one gives you issue 7 and 8 digital, plus the 1-year anthology, so you get all the other old ones as well. And it's just really cool looking stuff. It's old school style stuff. They even see Berserk, Bloodborne, and Dark Souls, this Eldritch aesthetic. Love it. I know Bloodborne had like everything. It had Dark Souls plus the Eldritch stuff, so that was perfect for them. That's kind of the stuff they're offering here. Just these short stories that are steeped in this kind of feel, which I think is really, really fun. And it looks like it's a passion project for these guys. They have some cool art, of course, that goes with it. You can get higher tiers to fund more stuff, but honestly, for 15 bucks and you get everything they've written, that's awesome. Also, they pay their artists and their writers like a good wage, which is super cool. Good for them. So hopefully they can fund that. Next up, we have Nova Aetas Renaissance Last Chance. This is probably the last time I'm mentioning the last chance here. 4 days left to go, over 100,000 raised. If you don't recall, they're delivering, they being Ludus Mana Studio, are delivering Nova Aetas Renaissance finally, at least Wave 1. They have some extra Wave 1, and you can order it now to get it super quick, unlike everybody else who had to wait a long time like me. But it will cost you a bit more. So as you can see, the price is fairly high, and you can see how many are remaining of each area. So there's only so much remaining in each time, and this is probably the time to get it versus later on, even when it's on their web store, it'll be even more expensive. So you do get quite a few here. There's some expansion tiers. Again, it's a full Wave 1 that you're getting. It's a big game by the looks of it. Next up, we have Dream Escape by Bad Cat Games. 1,500 plus backers, 236,000 plus raised, so doing quite good. This is a very Euro Cthulhu game, if that makes sense. So a lot of people are going to love it. There's different things you're interacting with, and you get all these different powers and stuff that you're able to kind of use, and they're, you know, around there. But then, of course, as the closer you get to the summoning, the worse things get and stuff like that. It's a solo card-driven hybrid of narrative role-playing experience and captivating story where every choice you make matters. So that's, again, just kind of exactly what I explained there. It says over 7,000 possible story choice outcomes. It has a lot. It is a big game, as you can see. Not big as in like it's a massive like table presence like Oathsworn or something like that. Big as in it's a deeply involved kind of complex. You can really sink into this game, I feel, which is super cool. It's solo, so you're guaranteed to be able to play it as long as you decide to play it, which is nice. And they did unlock the Long Shadow GameFound exclusive cat card, and the moment you get a cat on a card, I think everybody kind of wants that. So they did do that, which is kind of cool. And some of the art, like this, is very pretty. It's not all bad. It's not all like dark and dreary, which is also kind of nice, I think, as well. Let's see, the cost of that, if you go down to rewards, is about 70 bucks. But of course, you know, 9 times as many people want the all-in as the essential, which is pretty typical for crowdfunded board games. As much as we complain about the price, we're over here spending as much as possible typically. And 200 bucks for an all-in, actually not that bad. It looks like it comes with some nice premium organization stuff, neoprene mat, all those expansions, stuff like that. It looks actually quite nice. But if nothing else, Deluxe is 100 bucks and you get quite a bit there also. Okay, moving on from that. We have Spiritfire. This is Orange Nebula's latest. It has 800,000 raised, 5,500 plus. They have really jumped in their funding, and I think that shows as people learn more about the game. This video, by the way, does help explain it a bit more. Now, Orange Nebula is rarely involved in actually like explaining mechanics in a very hard and finite way. They're typically very fluffy in how they describe it, and this is a fairly different game, so you know, it does play very different than what you're used to as well, so it can kind of lead to some misunderstandings or just some confusion around how you play, or even like what you need to play. In fact, there's an FAQ that they go over, and even their answers are kind of like fluffy in a way. They don't just like come out and say, they're like, well, if you want to play with 2 players, then you can like do this, but they don't just say, just buy this, and then you go. Like, it's like, you could do this, and it's a whole thing. So what it is, it's a very Euro game, again, so it's not something that necessarily appeals to me. It looks a very complex game with a lot of different mechanics that are fairly separate, but then tied, as long as you remember, again, all those different mechanics. So it's a very heavy game by the looks of it, my opinion. You have like a map here that you're able to navigate around, and that changes as you make story decisions. And then there's like story cards that come through, and like companion cards and all sorts of other stuff. So you're dealing with this deck here, you're dealing with this here, you're dealing with this here, you're dealing with this here, this here, this here, and this here, and you're kind of all playing that. Again, very Euro game, very much not my cup of tea, but a lot of people do love it, and I'm glad that they do. It'll cost you about $100 to get, and as you can see, there are 4,458 people right there at the core, which is actually crazy that a core pledge has that many. That's not normally the case. There's a lot of focus on just the core game being good, is what that says, which is kind of nice. Next up, a quick update on the Elegoo OrangeStorm Giga, gigantic volume fast FDM 3D printer. That thing actually is that big. It's actually massive. Now, obviously, as you can see, the print size itself is almost half of that. There's a large range all around it there, right? Where obviously the frame is bigger than this. So it's about 2.5 by 2.5 by 3.25 feet. Still quite big. You can print something out like that, like no problem. Or multiple things, how you can get multiple print heads on that, which is pretty darn cool. They're doing this kind of like limited quantity thing. A lot of it's for like the shipping, which I've seen very often, but I mean, all of them, a lot of them are actually still available. There are some people that held it on, but for the most part, even like this 1 out of 500, people can still kind of get. Notice the price is the same. It just depends on how quick they're able to deliver it for you, right? July versus August. Now, whether they can actually only make 500 and send them out, I don't know. Often when the companies do this, they end up sending way more out early because it just makes sense to make them all at the same time anyway, instead of doing multiple production runs, stuff like that. So I think this is probably a little bit of a fussy back now to lock in your time, but we'll see. We'll see how long it takes them to actually make this. It could possibly ship earlier. You're just going to have to judge that for yourself. Either way, same price. Next up, we have Ravaged Star Tabletop Miniature War Game. Only 3 days left. This thing jumped. I think the last time I showed this off, it was at $3.5, like $350,000, right? So 717, it's doing very good. The first one made a bit over $1 million. So the second one offering mostly the same stuff, just board gamifying it. Or I guess tabletopifying it, making it an actual game and adding 2 new factions. And they are almost doubling what they did last time. Pretty darn good. They do have a lot of new miniatures though. Some of these minis, by the way, look fantastic. I'm going to go ahead. I already talked about all the rewards, which there are far too many. But if we go to stretch goals here, see some of the new stuff here. Looks really, really nice. Like this guy here. Fantastic. This guy, again, also really good. Just some really cool looking minis that you can definitely get. So that's pretty darn good for that. And glad to see that they're successful. Moving on from that. We have Gates of Nifleheim. Now, this is where we get to games that are coming out. Nifleheim is coming out in a little over a day at the time of posting here. So very, very soon this is coming out, and it looks really cool. By Raybox Games, they do some really cool indie games here. And I think this one looks pretty darn neat. You also get this cool coin, which I like. I like how it's like not fully circled and stuff like that. Over 30 plus scenarios. It's all in a book like that. You open it up, you put your minis or standees on there, which is very cool. And then you play through the game and make your decisions as a Viking, essentially. It does have this nice, really good looking dual layer board, which I really like. And as you can see, the items here are these tokens that you use. So think kind of like Reichbusters, where you put them on there. That's really cool to see. Doesn't take up a lot of space, has all the information you need. And it just looks really pretty. Everything here just looks like chunky in a really good way, I think. Their miniatures, obviously, if you do choose to get them, look very, very nice, very premium, very stylized, very dynamic. Really like that. I think that's super cool. So if that sounds interesting to you, then by all means, go ahead and check that out. Again, everything is linked down in the description below. Next up, we do have Singularity. I'm going to have a review on that. I've already played it. I just need to write up my review and film it out, so feel free to check that out. Of course, it's coming out on GameFound. If you follow it now, you can still save the $5 if you saw this at time of posting the video. If you didn't, you're probably not subscribed. You should probably go ahead and subscribe. I can maybe save you some money, make you a more well-informed consumer, and ideally entertain you along the way. So hopefully you enjoy the videos I make, and if you subscribe, you can maybe benefit from it as well. And of course, I appreciate it as well too. Helps the channel out too. And you can save $5, why not? So it's $55 for the core, or 50 otherwise is kind of what's there right now. Scroll down and you kind of see that. They're doing a lot of alt art and stuff like that. There's a lot of updates that you'd read, not just this page here. A spoiler alert, I've actually really enjoyed the game. I played it with my son a lot and he liked it as well. And again, $50 for what you get in the amount of deck building you can get in just the core game. Very, very good. It actually comes with 4 factions, and each one has 4 pre-made decks where you can be like, here's a deck that's already themed for you, and then of course you can customize that on top of that. But that's a lot of different deck options already. Super cool to see that, actually. So yeah, very, very nice. Again, I'll have a review out here very soon for you. Next up we have Firesiege by Deer Games Studio. Again, this comes out around the same time, so this will be coming out here very soon. 3,800 people are following this. And I'm actually a little bit surprised. The gameplay itself must be really good because these minis, in my opinion, look kind of terrible. They look like what I used to see when I first looked at Kickstarter in like 2018. A lot of the minis still look like this. Some were obviously better than that, even in 2018. This is very much looks like it's made out of Play-Doh to me. I mean, look how thick that staff is. It's just silly looking. Not very good minis, but the art looks kind of cool, so I dig that, and the gameplay looks pretty neat as well. They do have the limitless teamwork in this epic tower defense game with limited communication, which is kind of a neat thing to do for a tower defense game. I know a lot of people like the tower defense game, and obviously it does have some cool little tiny minis that are a little adorable. That's probably why it's kind of, you know, thick like that, right? Because this is going to be a little mini here. But yeah, they've already have some reviews out and stuff like that, which is kind of cool too. So gameplay looks like it's probably what a lot of people are really focused on, because otherwise, like I said, you're not going to don't get this for the minis. Otherwise, it looks pretty cool. Next up, we have Sea Beasts. This is another weird one. It's coming out again on GameFound in a little over a day at the time of recording. And there's almost no information about this, yet they have 3,300 backers. So, you know, I'm looking through here, and this is literally it. Just says, hey, here's a premise of what we're doing here, right? Fully cooperative 1 to 2 player Viking Raider game. Okay, sounds cool. Of course, or you're trying to like sell stuff or whatever. And then you go to the updates, and the updates don't offer a lot too. In fact, this is one of the most telling ones where it actually shows for the first time a little bit of gameplay components, but like that's it. These updates don't say a lot. So I'm wondering, I'm assuming that Littlest Lantern here, who is the first time they're making one, at least on GameFound, has an audience somewhere else than GameFound. Because if you just look at GameFound, all they're showing is a few minis and like that's it. So to get 3,000 people to sign up for that seems a little odd. There's not a whole lot here, if that makes sense, like at least information wise. I'll follow it up with once it does launch, so stay tuned for that. Again, subscribe if you haven't, of course. That does hopefully help you out, because I'll let you know exactly what Sea Beast is all about. But for now, not too sure. Nemesis Retaliation, almost the opposite. It's coming out in 10 days, so still a while out there. 56,000 people have already signed up for this, and they have a plethora of information. In fact, they've added more information, which I really appreciate. They do have a great pricing scheme. $65 for the standee is, I think, a really good deal. $109 is still lower than the average these days for the special edition, which essentially just comes with minis. The difference is standees versus minis. Otherwise, you're getting pretty much the same thing. And they do have a lot of stuff. Their health is a little bit different. They now have tactical belts, so you pre-pick some gadgets and stuff like that. Kind of reminds me of Gotham City Chronicles a little bit, the Batman game. And then, of course, you have this like nice cool little tray here. You got like your oxygen indicator because that's going down. It says you have a special component for a new item management system. I don't know what the new item management system. This tray isn't very new, so I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. Everything's dual layered, double layered, which is nice. Stuff like the flamethrower, tactical armor, RPG launcher, or if you're boring, a motion tracker. So there's a lot there that you can obviously get, and the models do look pretty darn nice. At least the renders do. I'd like to see what the actual end result that E-Star makes with like these little crabs. I'll be kind of looking out for that. It'll be kind of interesting to see what that ends up looking like. But the renders, of course, look fantastic. So there is that. So scrolling down here, you do have like these different ranks, right? They keep saying rank specialists and stuff like that. So that's another thing that's kind of new. Oh, backwards compatibility. You will be able to use some, and those are probably the more combat oriented, of your previous Nemesis characters, because the character skill didn't change. The enemy did. So that's cool that there's still some backwards compatibility there. I do appreciate that. So they have different sectors that you're going through in the exploration, which is again kind of cool. And they talk a little bit about that. Obviously their art style on the little rooms are actually kind of, I think, improved. Yeah, that looks really nice. I really dig that. And of course, again, the scale of things have kind of changed a little bit too. Also, the enemies look really cool as well. I'm going to go and scroll past all the previous renders, but as you can see, they had a lot of information, the opposite of the previous campaign. But all the way down here, it's going to talk about, almost there. Oh, this little robot seems kind of cool too. You can tell it to do different things. Right here, military ranks. It says here that there's a system in place where people lower rank than you can kind of direct them to do things, but then they can also use those same cards to kind of like be like, no, I don't listen to you kind of thing. This insubordination. So kind of interesting to see how that plays out. Hopefully it doesn't just negate itself all the time. You actually get one or the other, and it's like really dynamic and interesting. That's kind of the hope anyway, right? Okay, we're almost done here. We do have DCeased coming out. This will be on November 14th as well. You can see a nice little spread there. Alex from Board Game Co. has an unboxing that you can see, and I think now they do have a paid for preview that you can also take a look at if you want to learn more about the game prior to that. But again, this is coming out like really soon. And of course, link down below, and of course I will cover it as it launches on the campaign. I'll probably be backing it more likely than not, so I'll be involved with that, of course, also. Not to be outdone, Horizon Forbidden West is also coming out. Now this is going to be a big one. This is Seeds of Rebellion. Look how big these miniatures are compared to the other ones, by the way. These are big minis. A lot of these are huge, which is super cool. These kind of big boss ones. It looks like it takes a lot of the gameplay from the first one, but then makes it an actual Horizon game, which I really appreciate. So a lot more story focus and quests and scenarios and stuff like that. Not so much just like the random hunts that you do. And co-op, which also looks really good too. So anyway, that's kind of the spread there. Actually looks kind of nice. I'll definitely be taking a look at that. Now, one final thing. Here's Arcana Familia Fresh Meat. This is a very indie thing. Again, only 11 people are following this. It kind of just came on GameFound not too long ago. I just want to make a comment about this. It's by A Game of Nerds. It's a TTRPG, so not everybody's going to be involved with that. I understand that. I'm not either. But I do want to talk about one thing I've noticed. Just trying to give some constructive criticism here. I don't know what the rule is on AI art and disclosing that. I know Kickstarter made a big thing where they now require you to actually mention AI art or not. This to me looks like AI art. Now it says here, again, it's about 3-session little TTRPG, so it's just a little thing, right? It's not a huge thing here, but like this looks like AI art. Like if I've ever seen it, it looks like AI art. Like this is pretty obvious to me, but nowhere here does it mention using AI for art or if that'll be the final thing or anything like that. I don't actually care too much of AI art or not. Personally, it's just not a big deal to me. I think while it takes away some of like what artists have had, it also lets more people be creative artistically, which is also super cool to see that creativity actually happen. So pros and cons to it, of course. And of course, ideally they get better at, you know, what they're actually looking at and to actually train this AI. But regardless, I didn't see any mention of that anywhere on this. There's like an FAQ here, but it has nothing in there. So there's nothing there or in the project. I don't know what GameFound's stances on that, but you should probably add it because, well, I don't care. I know a lot of people do care. And if nothing else, it's good just to state it and let it be known. So anyway, there's some feedback there. Guys, that's all I have for today's video. That is a lot. I need to take a drink. I probably need to take like some ibuprofen too. I think I have a headache from talking so much. There's a lot here. There is that Into the AM sale. Feel free to check that out. Obviously down in the description below, there's a link for 10% off your order. Whatever it is that you end up paying after the sale, you still save on top of that. So they're huge supporters of the channel, and so I want to thank them, of course, and thank you guys for being such an awesome community. If you have not subscribed, be sure to subscribe. That review's coming out, more reviews coming out, top 10s for the end of year stuff, that's coming out, of course. There's a ton of great content for you, and of course, more news videos, details videos, unboxings, all that. If you appreciate that, feel free to subscribe. It'll do you some good, hopefully. And with that, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care, guys. Bye.